there is a specific kind of quiet that arrives about a week after the good news. The thing you wanted has happened. The offer came, the person stayed, the work landed, and instead of relief, there is a low hum in the room, like a machine you cannot find. And somewhere inside that hum, with no drama at all, you begin making a series of very small decisions. You do not answer the message for 2 days. You say the sharp thing on a Tuesday, the one you had been holding, and you say it in the flattest voice you own. You stop doing the exact thing that made it work in the first place. None of it feels like destruction while it is happening. It feels like honesty. It feels, strangely, like relief. And then 3 weeks later it is over, and you can point to the sentence. You know precisely which one it was. You have been here before, so you already know the shape of the aftermath, and you already know the word everyone uses. Self-Sabotage. As though there were a saboteur. As though some vandal got into the building at night while you were asleep. There was no vandal. You were awake the entire time. You were calm. And that calm is the single most important piece of evidence in the whole case. By the end of this, 3 things will be clear. Why it always arrives after the good news and never before it. Why calling this a fear of success has kept you stuck for years. And what Carl Jung meant by the regressive restoration of the persona, which is the most exact description of this ever written, and which almost nobody has heard. Begin where it actually begins, which is not with success at all. It begins with the first time something good was taken back. Not a catastrophe necessarily, it can be very ordinary. A parent who was warm for a season and then was not, for reasons never given. A house that was good in July and unrecognizable by October. The size of it does not matter. What matters is that it arrived, and then it left, and nobody explained the mechanism. Sit for a moment with what a child does with that. He cannot make good things come. He has tested this thoroughly. He cannot make them stay either, and he has tested that too, usually by being very good for a very long time. So he is left holding the only piece of leverage available to a person with no power at all. He can decide when it ends. That is the whole invention. It is not weak. It is the most intelligent move in a room where every other lever is bolted to the wall. If the good thing is going to be taken anyway, then taking it yourself converts an ambush into an appointment. He cannot stop the loss, but he can stop being ambushed by it, and to a child, the ambush is the unbearable part. So he learns to leave first. He learns to break the toy before somebody else can break it. He learns to press the bruise on purpose, because a pain you are causing is a pain you understand. And notice what he did not learn. He did not learn to be afraid of good things. He learned something more specific and much harder to see. A good thing is not an event. It is the opening of a countdown. Bring him forward 30 years, hand him everything he asked for, and a very old piece of equipment quietly comes online. It does not check the date. It has no way of knowing that the house it was built for was sold a long time ago. Alan Watts had a way of taking this apart that does not sound like psychology at all. He talked about music. He pointed out that nobody listens to a symphony in order to arrive at the final chord. If arriving with a point, the best conductors would be the fastest ones. And a piece of music that stopped at its most beautiful moment and held there would not be beautiful. It would be an alarm. Everything you love is like that. Not an object you can be handed and then keep. A process moving that you happen to be standing inside. And the price of anything being alive is that it is perishable. Watts said we spend our lives clinging to a piece of driftwood in a torrent. The terror is not the torrent. The terror is that we have decided the driftwood is us. Which brings the real thing into focus. At the moment you get what you wanted, something changes in your position that nobody warns you about. Up until then, you were a person who wants. From that morning on, you are a person who can lose. Those are not two moods. They are two entirely different relationships to the world, and you have 20 years of practice at the first one and almost none at the second. Wanting is safe, because the thing is not yet in your hands and cannot fall out of them. Having is exposure. Having means there is now something in the world whose removal would cost you. And this is where Jung watched a very particular thing happen to people, and gave it a name so unglamorous that it never made it onto a poster. He called it the regressive restoration of the persona. Here is what he meant. Sometimes life cracks a person open. A collapse will do it, so will a success. It genuinely does not matter which, because both do the same job. They make the old shape of the personality unusable. And in that crack, there is an invitation to become somebody larger. The invitation is real, and it is expensive. Jung noticed that many people, faced with it, do not simply stay where they are. Staying is not one of the options on offer. They go backwards. They rebuild the smaller life they had before the crack, deliberately, brick by brick, and then they move back into it. And his observation about those people is the coldest sentence in the whole subject. Such a person becomes what he was before, with one difference. He now knows that he is less. The restoration works perfectly. The old life goes back up, and it is inhabited by somebody who has seen the size of the room. He declined. That is what this actually is. Not a fall. A retreat carried out with skill, with planning, and with construction work. Now put the two of them together, because separately these are insights, and together they are a mechanism. Watts says, to have a thing at all is to be exposed to losing it. Jung says, when the larger life is too expensive, people build the smaller one back on purpose. Join those and you get the sentence this entire episode rests on. You are not destroying the good thing. You are authoring its loss, because a loss you author is survivable, and a loss that simply happens to you is the original one, happening again. Which leads to 5 things that are difficult to hear. I would rather be plain about them than kind. 1. This is not a fear of success. Fear of success would show up beforehand. It would make you hesitate at the door, skip the application, decline the invitation. But you did not hesitate. You worked for this, often for years and often brilliantly. Whatever this is, it waited until you had won. It is not a fear of succeeding. It is a difficulty with having, and the distinction is practical. A fear of success is a personality, and nobody has ever done anything useful with a personality. A difficulty with having is a skill you were never taught, and skills can be learned late. 2. You did not lose control. People go looking for the moment they snapped, and they cannot find it. So they conclude they must have been overwhelmed. You were not overwhelmed. Go back to it honestly, and you will find you have rarely in your life been calmer or clearer than in the hour you took it apart. There was no snap. There was a decision, made by a part of you that had been waiting patiently since the good news landed, and it moved with the unhurried competence of something that has done this many times before. 3. And this one is not really about you. Jung wrote that nothing has a stronger psychological influence on a child than the unlived life of the parent. Read that from the other end. If you exceed the people who made you, you do not get to bring them with you. The life opens, and it opens in a direction they cannot follow, and every step forward registers somewhere underneath as a departure. So some of what gets called self-sabotage is not sabotage at all. It is a person choosing the bond over the life, and by the terms they were handed when they were small, choosing correctly. 4. As long as it was potential, it was infinite. The business you have not started is flawless. The book you have not written is the best one. The person you have not committed to is every person. Then the thing becomes real, and real things have edges, and edges are a terrible disappointment after infinity. So you break the finite version in order to protect the infinite one. This is why a certain kind of very gifted person has had the same idea for 11 years and has never once been in danger of finishing it. That is not laziness. It is preservation. 5, and this is the flaw of it. The story is load-bearing. The near miss, the one that got away, the thing that would have worked if. It is the most coherent thing you own. It explains an entire life in a single sentence, and it does it without ever asking anything of you. So understand what success actually costs. It does not only give you the thing, it takes away your explanation. And a person will part with almost anything before they will part with the sentence that makes their life make sense. So say you stop, say you leave it alone this time. Nobody tells you what that is like, so here it is. The first thing is that you have to sit still while something good goes on happening to you, and it is physically unpleasant. The body reads sustained good fortune as an unresolved threat, and it is not being irrational. You will catch yourself checking, testing the person, refreshing the number, looking for the flaw with real diligence, the way you would look for a gas leak. There is a specific tiredness in that, and it is the tiredness of waiting for a second shoe that the world is under no obligation to drop. Then something harder arrives, and it is the reason most people do not stay. You have to grieve the losses you caused. Not the ones done to you. Those you have grieved for years, expertly. They were the wallpaper of your inner life. These are different, because the ledger has to be rewritten. It used to read, "Things kept being taken from me," and it turns out that some of them, not all of them, but some, read, "I set them down, and I chose the afternoon." That is not a mystical crisis. It is shame, plainly, and it lasts a while. And then the thing that has to be said, because everything else is a way of not saying it. You will not be given a guarantee. The thing you have may in fact end. The person may leave, the work may stop. That was always true. It was true before you ever started protecting yourself from it. Destroying it now does not make that ending hurt any less. It only makes it certain. It makes it early. And it makes it yours. You cannot buy insurance against a loss by paying the loss in advance. That is the arrangement you have been operating under your whole adult life, and it has never once paid out. So go back to the room a week after the good news, with the hum still in it. Nothing is required of you. That is the part that is nearly impossible to accept, because you have spent your life being the one who acts. There is no version of this in which you secure it. The work is not to build, or to earn it, or to deserve it, or to find the flaw before the flaw finds you. The work is to leave your hands where they are, while something good takes its course. And you will want to do something. It will not arrive dressed as fear. It will present itself as responsibility. It will say, be honest with them. Say the hard thing now, get ahead of it. It will sound exactly like maturity. It is a very old child reaching for the only lever he was ever given. You do not have to argue with him. He is not wrong about the world he learned in. You only have to not hand him the lever. Watts said the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. It gets read as encouragement. It is not encouragement. It is a description of the only thing that was ever actually on offer. The music is playing. It is going somewhere. It will end, and that is not a flaw in the music. You're not required to hold the chord. You're not required to stop it before it can leave you. Stay in the room. Let it play.